Kevin Madden, let's get back to the campaign trail. Your old boss, Mitt Romney, you were his press secretary in the last campaign, advising him during this campaign. He continues to be up toward the top of the polls, but he does not seem to generate any excitement. Every time a new flavor comes along, first it was Michelle Bachmann, then it was Rick Perry. They shoot up, then they go down. He still stays in there about 25%. Is someone who does not excite the Republican electorate going to be able to win in the general election?
Well, look, we have to look at public opinion. It is not an event. It's a process. And I think that because we have a lot of choices here before the voters, the polls are going to go up and down. We've seen the same polls that are now bringing folks like Herman Cain up. There were the same polls that brought Rick Perry up. And we saw what happened to Rick Perry over the period, the last month since he's been in the race. But what's most important is that Governor Romney has had a certain degree of resiliency. He has gone out there and focused like a laser very acutely on the issue of the economy, and because he's held his own, and he's also held a really good spot in the race. And now here we are 60 days before the first contest in Iowa, and this is where you really get those persuadable voters and you try and grow your support. So I think if we look at the fact that we're at 25%, I think when you're looking at excitability, there's nothing that excites Republican voters right now more than the prospect of beating Barack Obama, and that's going to be the message that I think the Romney campaign is going to deliver in the next 60 days.
Well, John, you've just been out in Iowa. What's the deal out there?
Well, I was out there with Governor Romney. He was on the western side of the state, sort of in his natural habitat in a local bank and with the Chamber of Commerce, and he was talking only about business. You know, in the last race, he talked a lot about social issues. 60% of the voters in Iowa and the caucuses are evangelicals or claim themselves to be. This time it was all about business and arguing, I'm a business guy. He uses that phrase almost the way the rest of us take breaths to say that he focuses on the economy. And I talked to a Huckabee voter who said, I was with Huckabee in 2008, but I'm looking at Romney now because of this question of electability. But he is a stainless steel candidate. If Herman Cain is all passion and Rick Perry is passion, Mitt Romney there's just not a warmth connection there. And so it's got to all be about electability because these voters, they applaud, but they don't jump out of their seats when they
So let me just say this. It's also about money, John.
Yeah.
And Rick Perry has raised a whole bunch of money. Can he sustain?
Well, look, he's the first quarter that he was in, I think he raised about $15 million, and he's going to need every single penny of that to fix some of the problems that he's had just in the first 30 days in the race. He has an illegal immigration problem in that he gave free tuition to illegal immigrants down in Texas. He called the building of a fence down on the border idiocy. Those are two positions that are firmly at odds with Republicans in this primary. So he's going to need $15 million just to repair that. But I think going back to John's point, the issue about Governor Romney and how he connects, the number one anxiety that the American electorate, and particularly Republicans, have is about the economy. And because he has that expertise, and because he has gone out there and talked about his business sense and his business acumen, and also his role as a successful governor, I think that's where you have a greater connection now than he had in 2008.
And let me ask you, John, about Herman Cain. I'll ask you what I asked Rick Santorum. Can he be for real here?
Well, he is for real in the sense that you talk to voters. They're the one that everybody's talking. He's the one that everybody's talking about. And the polls have shown it. Now, there was a recent poll that showed him at 37% in Iowa. He has to do well in Iowa because that gives him the spark. You mentioned money. He doesn't have it the way those other two big candidates have it. But the big test about Herman Cain is, in Iowa, it's an organizational state. That's what they've told us all along, all these years. He doesn't have much of an organization in Iowa, and that's the real test for him. He's gone there a couple times, but not enough.
All right. Well, thanks to both of you. I'll be back in a moment with some final thoughts.